Good morning, good evening, afternoon. Welcome to the show, folks. To all the Americans out there, hello. Happy 4th of July. Happy Is it Independence Day? It is Independence Day. We're not doing anything American today, because I'm not from America. Instead, we're doing something Greek instead, and we're reciting poetry out loud. We're reading the Odyssey today. It's been a long time coming, but finally, we shall learn about Odysseus' journey home, and his struggles with the mighty Cyclops Polyphemus. Book 8 we're on today. Is it book 8 or book 9? Book 9 even, the Cyclops. Hello, Pickle, my friend. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Happy America Day if you're from there. If not, you know, we can all, say America's a little silly Billy. But you know what? We're not doing anything American anyway. So, you know? That's alright. That's all good in the hood. Pickle, I've come up with a large reading list of all the things that I want to read on stream. And I keep adding to it. A lot of it is very old stuff, though I'm also willing to read some modern stuff. I think I posted that in the Discord as well. But I've got a lot of things here, so allow me to read you a snippet. No, there's no point reading a snippet. I've got all of it here. And all of it excellent. I've added some more since, actually, to my list. I've got them on my phone here. I've not updated them on Discord yet, but yeah, okay, so here I got The Iliad by Virgil. The works by Hesiod, which would be like the Theogony and such, which is his account of the origin of the divines and the heavens and such in from Greek mythology. So that would be Hesiod's work. I said the Iliad by Virgil. The Iliad is by Homer. The Aeneid is by Virgil. Again, the Roman sequel, as it were. There's I got some Arthurian stuff here with Yvain, the Knight of the Lion, Gawain, the Green Knight, and some other Arthurian tales. Beowulf, which we've already discussed. Some things I've never read before, even though I've always meant to. The Poetic Edda and the Prose Edda, all about the Nordic religions and their myths and history and such. I'd be very interested in reading them. I've got a bunch of Chinese classics on here, actually, I want to read as well. So Journey to the West. There are a couple of versions of this, so I want to do more research as to what version would probably be the best version to read now. There's an old Penguin Classics version translated by, I can't remember his name, but I think I mentioned this either stream, actually. It was under the name Monkey, it was translated. But there's other versions as well, but apparently Monkey is still a very good way to read it, even if it is a bit abridged in terms of some of the content. Dream of the Red Chamber is another one, which is very, very influential in terms of Chinese literature. I thought they'd be much older. They're not, apparently. Apparently the Journey to the West was obviously these are kind of stories which existed for a bit, but it was recorded down. I wouldn't know if you count it as an epic or whatnot, but it was first written as in its format we know it today in around the 1500s. So I thought it'd be much older than that, but apparently it's not. Red Chamber, Dream of the Red Chamber, is one all about the fall of this aristocratic family, if I remember correctly. Very influential work, kind of based on the author's experiences with his own family and the fall of the era which he was part of. That was, I want to say, around the 1700s. Romance of the Three Kingdoms, very classic. Lots of Chinese imagery and mythology coming from there. I think probably most well known here the Dynasty Warriors games, heavily based on them. But yeah, Arabian Nights, which I don't know if I want to read on stream. There's a lot of good stories in there, but also I guess it would have to come with a content warning, right? There's a lot of stuff in there which would not fly today, but also you run the risk of that of anything with a lot of older texts and such, so that can happen. But yeah, if people are okay with that, and it's and such, that maybe reading Arabian Nights. I have read some of it. I actually have a big hardback book of it. It's very, very nice, but I've never finished it all because it's really quite dense. But it's really fun. I want to read some books inspiring the Ghibli films. So if you've never read the book Howl's Moving Castle before, I borrowed that from a friend of mine. Very, very different from the Ghibli film. By the way, the film by Ghibli, Howl's Moving Castle, if you've never watched that, what are you doing with your life? That film is a masterpiece. Wonderful film. But yeah, and there's a bunch of things which have inspired Ghibli films. The film Arrietty is based on The Borrowers. If you've ever heard of that, it's about a bunch of small, tiny people who go around taking things from houses. So yeah, that could be. I think reading books based on that could be interesting. I got the idea because I've already read Bambi, which is obviously inspired a Disney film. So maybe reading some books which inspired Disney stuff as well. Which leads me on to the Brothers Grimm. I actually saw a copy of this available. It was a hardback version though. And like, if I want to get the Brothers, so I bought the Iliad earlier in the week, a paper copy of it, because if I want to read them on stream, I also want to be able to annotate them so I can discuss them. I mentioned this the other day, I think, but yeah, I don't want to get a nice fancy hardback version of the Brothers Grimm and then deface it. That'd be rather a shame, I think. But yeah, another this is Roman, but it's about like it's about Greek texts. This is one new one. Metamorphoses by Ovid, not the rather infamous 18+ manga, which has garnered a bit of infamy. I've never actually read it. I've only seen snippets of it. I think it just looks too sad to read. But yeah, a lot of people like that. But yeah, no, this is not that. Metamorphosis. It's a compendium of stories, if I remember correctly. I got some plays to read. So I mentioned I have a bunch of plays already from like hard copy versions of them from writers by Euripides and such, and I got a bunch of other plays here as well, such as the Hecuba, Philoctetes, by Hecuba and by Hecabe. The Sack of Troy is a short poem by a writer called Traphiodorus. I would like to see something you enjoy reading, actually. If I'm being honest, I think I would enjoy reading most of these. I'm enjoying reading The Odyssey. And I like reading like this kind of stuff. Oh, the Bibliotheca by Apollodorus is like a compendium of Greek stories. I think I'd be very interested in that. If I was to read my favorite book of all time on stream, I think I've done that before once. I think no one comes to those kind of things, I guess, because they're not super popular. Oh, actually, this would actually lead into the Ghibli stuff. One of my favorite book at the of my life at the moment. I don't want to say of all time because life can change and things can change. My favorite book at the moment is A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. Unfortunately, passed away a couple of years ago now. It was a real shame. I was actually writing a dissertation on her work, and I was like, oh, hang on. Maybe I could actually email her, and maybe if she's kind enough to get back to me on it, maybe she could do something about that. Obviously, she's a big writer, a long shot. Unfortunately, she died the year before, and it's like, no! No, how could this happen? Oh, the tragedies of it all. I was 1 year away. If only I'd been quicker, I could have done something. But alas, it could not be done. But yes, Wizard of Earthsea is my favourite book. If I get round to some of the Ghibli works, I will absolutely be reading the Earthsea cycle because they're wonderful. They are absolutely amazing series. Oh my goodness! If you've never read Earthsea, it's imagine if like how do I put this? Imagine if, I don't want to say imagine if Harry Potter was good because like it's completely different from Harry Potter. It's not. It's a high fantasy. It's all about the world of Earthsea. This entire world made up of like archipelagos, right? All these island nations. I don't hate Harry Potter. I just don't have any love for it, right? It's like, listen, I can watch the films and be like, oh, this is fun. This is good. This is enjoyable. But then I'm like, after it's done, I'm like, okay, I have no urge to return to it. Like, I would never volunteer to watch Harry Potter unless but if someone else said, oh, I want Harry Potter, I wouldn't deny them that. I'm like, oh, okay, sure, you can put Harry Potter on. Or if like Harry Potter's on TV and someone wants to watch it at like you know when it's like Christmas time and a bunch of films go on TV, if someone wants to watch it because it's on, like, yeah, sure, why not, okay, and I'll have a blast with it. But I'm not like thrilled about Harry Potter ever. I have no strong feelings towards Harry Potter. I don't like Doctor Who, but yeah. That's nothing. No, Earthsea is a fantasy really unlike that. It's all about the power of words, essentially. Everything in Earthsea is governed by the power of names. how everything has a true name, and if you know the true name of something, you gain power over it, and all about the discussions behind what it means for something to be a true name and everything, and also just about responsibility and such. The first book is The Wizard of Earthsea. It's all about a young lad who later becomes known as the Wizard Ged, who goes through a lot of trials and tribulations. It's all about his life and his maturity growing up, and all about growing up as a person. I think I have a soft spot for a lot of those kind of stories. Maybe there's a human condition, though. Bambi was all about growing up, and I really liked Bambi. But yeah, that would be like my dream book to read on stream. But yeah, maybe if I like grow big, I don't know. Because I tried reading it before, and it's a shame when no one's there to listen to it being read. But that's okay. That's okay. We're all growing. But yeah, honestly, about being happy to read something, I'm really happy reading a lot of these. Oh, speaking of being happy to read, so I mentioned the Bibliotheca by Apollodorus. There's another one, so that's a compendium of myths and such. There's another one, which I want to read. The Argonautica, which I'd never heard of. It's an epic poem all about the journey of the Argonauts, led by Jason. And this is by a man Apollonius Rhodius, Apollos of Rhodes, I believe he's commonly known as. I hate Jason too. All my homies hate Jason. Yeah. Well, actually, you bring up an interesting point there, because one of the plays I have is all about, what's Jason's wife called who he betrays? It's all about her. I can't remember. Hang on. What was the name of the poem of the play now? Jason, Argo, wife. Medea. Yes. Or I guess it would be Medea from the time. The way Medea play by... Was it Euripides' Medea, which I've read? Yes. Okay, so if it's at least Euripides' version of Medea, which I'm familiar with, it's the one there's been a bunch of versions of the story put into theatre format, but I read the version by Euripides years ago, and it's one I still have. Very, very controversial for the time. I guess we can get onto that when and if we actually get onto reading Medea. But Euripides' version was extremely controversial for the time. But it's very, 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 very interesting play. Very, 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 very cool play. Also, maybe this is a spoiler, but the end of it includes a chariot run by dragons, which is very metal, and I like that a lot. Very, very metal. Such a badass, better than Cersei, probably. Is Cersei a badass? She's just kind of a witch, right? That's not very cool. She doesn't really do anything. She's just like, I'm going to turn you into pigs because you've come onto my island. You know, it's like, okay, well, that's cool of you, I guess. I guess you just... I don't know if you just hate men or you hate strangers on your island. But no, she's kind of like... Cersei's like an evil character, right? She got to be one of the most fierce monsters in Greek history. Cersei did? Because of a man, said. Because of a man. When a man loves a woman. Yes, Medea... The Euripides play is very interesting, yeah. No, Jason... Yeah, he honestly... He messes up really bad. in angering Medea. But, yeah, we'll get onto that eventually, because it's, again, I have that already in the back pocket to read and such. And again, Scylla is Cersei's creation. Scylla is not Cersei's... No fucking way. I thought Scylla was, like, a much older creature than her. Scylla. Scylla, even. It's Scylla, isn't it? It's the soft C. Or is it Scylla? It's pronounced Scylla. I guess it's depending. Lives in the... She's, Oh, actually, well, this actually brings an interesting point, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Hang on. The idiom apparently there's an idiom between Scylla and Charybdis has come to mean being forced to choose between two similarly undesirable risky outcomes. So it's like, yeah, it's like a beat between a rock and a hard place. I'd never heard that as a saying before. No way. That was not Medea. Are you sure? No, she was a nymph and Circe falls in love with a sailor. Sailors fall in love with that nymph. Circe gets jealous and boom. Wait, for Scylla or for... Oh, you're talking about Circe, not Medea. Oh, right, okay. I'm getting confused there. Okay, that makes way more sense. Oh, actually, it's actually in Ovid's Metamorphosis. Oh, okay, this may... According to Ovid, the fisherman turned sea god Glaucus falls in love with the beautiful Scylla, but she's repulsed by his Piscine form and flees to a promontory where he cannot follow. When Glaucus goes to Circe to request a love potion that will win Scylla's affections, the enchantress herself becomes enamored with meeting him. Well, this actually works well then, because we're going to be covering the Metamorphosis by Ovid. So I guess it all comes back, it all comes round, doesn't it? Most excellent. Most excellent indeed. See, turns out we actually are on the same page. I was confused what you meant by Medea, and I'm like, oh, wait, that makes way more sense now you're talking Circe. That makes infinitely more sense. But, yeah. So, yeah, we have the Argonautica. These are all just Greek, obviously, and obviously the lot here as well from, like, general European folklore, like the Brothers Grimm, which is more like a selection of fairy tales. Straight up... Well, you can't spoil it for people who've not heard it yet, God. But yes, no, well, okay, the spite thing, that's, okay, we'll talk about this now then, if you bring it up. That's why, I'm joking, this is a story, these are stories from, like, thousands of years ago. You can't put a spoiler warning on them. No, so, a lot of the more traditional tellings of the tale, obviously, so... Medea gets heartbroken by Jason, by his betrayal, and trying to marry another queen in order to enhance his position in life, because he's this great hero who's got nothing to show for it, essentially. So he tries to marry into a new family and leaves his old family behind. And she's heartbroken and crushed and destroyed by this. She's given up her entire life for this man, and then he's thrown it all away like it's nothing. Traditionally, the most common version of the tale is that in this kind of fit of absolute grief, she just has this complete mental breakdown. It's very, very tragic. Complete mental breakdown, snaps, and this like fit of madness kills her children, and it's because because Medea is not Greek. I can see that. I think it's going to depend on like the different versions. Though, wait, hang on. When you say their race, who are you referring to? Are you referring to, like, the story behind it? Either way, regardless, she has this, like, fit of madness and kills her children, and it's all very sad. Jason is people. That makes sense. I can see that. I don't remember any kind of undertones like that in the play I read, though maybe, this is all going to be on, like, the writer's onus to do that. But, yes. In a very tragic turn of fate, rather, she kills her children in this fit of madness. Euripides, when you're talking, she killed her children out of spite. That was popularized by the playwright Euripides, I believe. I believe it was Euripides, yes. And this was extremely controversial for the time. You know, you have this respectable woman, obviously who has had this big tragic thing happen to her, but to actively choose to kill her children, to commit infanticide out of spite. It was rather controversial with its audiences at the time, and it was a bit of a big fuss about it. But I mean, it's stuck around as a very popular version still. People like this. It's such a dramatic twist, and it's like, oh no, you're actually fucked up. And, you know, those poor children didn't do anything wrong. It's like worse, right? When it's like, listen, she did it before, but she killed them in like this fit of insanity where she was in control. Now she's like, yeah, listen, I love my kids, but I hate my husband more than I love my children. And it's like, oh. Ah. Well, that's rather sad. And, you know, yeah, I guess there's an even greater level of tragedy to that then, isn't there? And the play is a tragedy. And then I believe she, like, gives Jason's new wife a wedding gift, which I believe is like a poison dress. Or, I can't remember if it's a poison dress or the dress is, like, has a thing on it which will set it on fire and burn her alive. Or maybe it's a bit of both. Maybe it's a poison which burns her alive. I can't remember. Either way, she gives the bride a poison dress as a wedding gift, which only activates when she wears it. Because, you know, she's got, like, magic witch powers and such. But yeah. Isn't that lovely? Anyone who tries to help her gets poisoned too. Oh yeah, because her dad tries to take the dress off, and he also dies. So that she kills the king and the queen. Yeah, queen and the king and the princess even. And it's like, damn, she really decided to go scorch earth on it. And I guess we can talk. Yeah. She flies off on like a chariot, flown by dragons. Again, extremely metal. Should she have got away with it? Probably not. No. Can I understand her? A bit, yes. Maybe not the whole infanticide part. That's a little much. Listen, I don't support... Listen, people can support women's rights, but don't support women's wrongs, okay? And if you do, well, I'm sorry, but I don't know. What's wrong with you? But yeah, yeah. She really does decide to go scorched earth on it all, doesn't she? And also, she actually has a fairly decent life planned for herself afterwards, because this king who her and Jason were friends with, she meets. It's mythology. It's like when people go like, oh, Saya no... Do you know Saya no Uta, the Song of Saya? People are like, oh man, I just don't agree with the Song of Saya. I don't agree with Saya. I think she was wrong for doing this. And like, this is a fucking hentai horror visual novel. Shut the fuck up. And by the way, I don't have any strong feelings about Saya no Uta. I have seen it played, though, and I think it's a very cool story. I think it's a very interesting, genuinely creepy at parts. Very genuinely a creepy game. But, yeah, people... And you have these, like, fucking 12-year-olds on TikTok being like, oh, I don't think Saya was right. Kill yourself. Can I say that on Twitch? Yeah. 12-year-olds, die! You don't like anime? Go fuck off. Oh my... Be gone! We don't want you here. We should have gatekept anime harder. Listen, if we want anime titties and we want, like, questionable characters who people enjoy, we should have gatekept it harder. And now people are coming in and fucking ruining it. God damn it. Anyway, Medea's a pretty good play. That was the point of this whole diatribe, I guess. Medea's quite enjoyable. But again, yeah, that Euripides, there are multiple versions of the story, multiple plays even about the story. The Euripides version, very controversial for the time period, and again, lasting in its influence for the narrative of the story as a whole. But yeah, I feel like there's something else I wanted to say. Maybe there wasn't, and I'm just misremembering. I don't know. But yes. A lot of things to read. Again, maybe we'll read Disney stuff as well. Brothers Grimm kind of falls into that. Who was it who wrote The Little Mermaid? That reminds me, I need to play Nikke tonight. I've not played it for a while just because I wasn't interested in the Stellar Blade event. And also I just kind of burnt out on the game and I wanted to do other stuff. I am working on a video actually regarding the Odyssey, which I was working on all day. And I'm not very good at editing, nor do I have the concentration for it. I may have undiagnosed ADHD. I have speculated that, though I don't want to say that for certain because it's always rather presumptuous to do so, especially with any kind of professional diagnosis. It's always going to lead you to bad things more often than not, unless it leads you to poverty, in which by paying for it and diagnosis, in which case, God if I know. I'm editing a video for it. Hopefully, I wanted it to be out before the stream today, but alas, I was not quick enough. The vision was not there, and I was too slow in doing things. Well, hopefully that'll be out before the end of next stream, at the very least. Sorry, next reading stream, at the very least. I don't know if it'll be next stream, but we'll give it a go, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, lots to read going forward. And again, this would take a long time, right? Like, I don't get through much of the Odyssey in one day, obviously, so maybe we can get through, like, 2 books today. Or maybe we'll just get the Cyclops book today, I'm not sure. I mean, the story of the Cyclops it's not that long. I don't know. We'll see how far we can get. Oh, actually, if we get to book 11, I can talk about Tiresias the Prophet. Which would be very fun to do, because they've got a funny anecdote about Tiresias. If you don't know okay, so in Epic the Musical, I was actually very surprised that they didn't develop him more, because Tiresias is a very important figure throughout a lot of stories from ancient Greece. He's a very, very famous prophet in a lot of stories, and there's a lot of very funny, unique stories about Tiresias. Maybe we'll get to this stream, maybe we won't. Yeah. But yes, let's get on with the stream, because I've been here at half an hour now. We've not started reading yet. Sometimes I've been here for an hour plus. I've not started reading, and that's no good. That's no good. We're not here for me yapping. No one wants to hear me talk. We're here to read. We're here to learn about stories from olden times and all that jazz. Yes, yes, indeed. Quite so. So yes, let's get all. I'm here for the yapping too. Pickle, you don't know what you're here for. Shut up. Shut up, Pickle.
You don't know what you're here for. You don't know what you want. I know what you want. You don't know what you want.
Un momento, my friends. Dum bum 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 bum. Dum bum 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 beep bum bum. Oh yeah, I made that Lucy Pie cake a while ago. I need to make some Lucy Pie muffins, cupcakes. We have things in the UK called fairy cakes, which are kind of like a normal cupcake, but even smaller and even lighter. They're rather pleasant. You'll often get them with some kind of like strawberry or vanilla icing on top. They're really rather pleasant to eat. Again, they are just like a very light cake, a very light cake. But if you've never had a fairy cake, just try some if you get the chance to. They're very cheap as well. You can often get them in large packs, but if you get them pre-made, but you can also make a ton of them very easily. Dum bum dum bum. Okay. Oh god, that's the wrong one. Oh dear me, my. We're changing the set, folks. What's with the Western world putting sprinkles and some calling it fairies something? Well, actually, no, these are not sprinkles. There's no sprinkles on it at all. They're called fairy cakes just because they're quite light. There's no. I mean, I guess you can put sprinkles on it. I guess in the same way that you could put anything on it, but generally they're just very like light sponge cakes with like generally like a little blob, a little ring of icing on it. But yeah, if you get the chance to try them, they're very nice. I've already had this rant before, but I fucking hate Pride Month. Number one, believe it or not, despite my luscious locks and my flamboyant appearance, I am not the gay. But also just like people being obnoxious about it. But also the other thing is that like people think it's the best thing ever when it's like it's just it's an event of corporate bullshit. It is corporate bullshit, right? Congratulations, now you can sell a unicorn cake, but call it with just sprinkles and rainbow-colored frosting on it. You can sell a unicorn cake, but say it's a pride cake, and now you get to literally have your cake and eat it too. And fuck off. Oh, it annoys me. It annoys me a lot. You understand what I'm saying here? People talking like it's this great thing, and it's just another corporate shell. Be gone. Hey, we don't have to put up with it now for another year, though. Now we just need to wait for people to not shit up about No Nut November, and then I'm gonna blow my fucking head off. Anyway. Actually, let's turn the music off as well. Is he European or gay? Is he gay? What is that song? What is that from, by the way? What's the musical? I know that song is from like a musical, but I'm not sure what it is. What is the musical that song is from? Is he gay or European? Is it Avenue Q? It's not Avenue Q. Avenue Q's the one with the puppets. It's Legally Blonde. Oh no, Avenue Q has Everyone's a Little Bit Racist Sometimes. I've never seen it all, but I want to watch it all. Actually, okay. Oh my god, I just remembered. I was watching a stage show, like a recorded stage show of Kinky Boots months ago, and I got to like the second act, and I never finished it. Fuck. Oh well. I'll get round to it eventually. Yeah. But yeah, I want to Avenue Q, that looks good. Anyway, we're not on Avenue Q though, we're on about the Odyssey. We're not even on the musical version of the Odyssey. We're just on about the book, the Odyssey, or rather the poem, composed by Homer, circa 800 BC-ish. Um, but yeah, we actually don't know when this was actually composed. But that's the case with a lot of these old things. We don't know the exact dates of anything. Well, that's okay, because we don't need to know the fact that this is a rather fun and entertaining story. So, quick catch-up on the Odyssey. So, since last time, why is that saying book 10 onwards? I should be reading book 9 onwards. Goodness heavens me. Oh dear. Yes, so,
Last time on The Odyssey.
there's a space there, shouldn't be that. There we go. Last time on the Odyssey, Odysseus of Ithaca, has been given aid by the Phaeacian people, and he's now been asked to explain where he's from. After, about like a day and a half of getting to know these people, having a big festival and everything like that, he's been asked to explain his story, and he's agreed to explain it. He's been asked by the king of the Phaeacian people, to explain his story, and he said, to quote him, he's been asked, and now speak and tell us truly, where have you been driven in your wanderings? What parts of the inhabited world have you visited? And importantly, asking him who he is. Perhaps one of your kinsmen by marriage fell before Ilium, because he's asking about why this stranger is so sad. Whenever the talented bard Demodocus sings of stories of Troy, and Odysseus cannot help but cry at the memories of his friends and his allies, who all went to war there with him. But I guess we'll find out now. Actually, let's just read the king's last statement, just to catch up. And now speak, and tell us truly, where have you been? Where have you been driven in your wanderings? What parts of the inhabited world have you visited? What lovely cities did you see? What people in them? Did you meet hostile tribes with no sense of right and wrong? Or did you fall in with hospitable and God-fearing people? Explain to us also what sorrow makes you weep as you listen to the tragic story of the Argives and the fall of Troy. The gods were responsible for that, weaving catastrophe into men's lives to make a song for future generations. Perhaps one of your kinsmen by marriage fell before Ilium, a brave man, your son-in-law possibly, or your father-in-law, who are nearest after one's own flesh and blood. Or perhaps some true friend, a kindred spirit, for a friend with an understanding heart can be quite as dear as a brother. And on these words, we now begin Book 9, The Cyclops. In answer to the king, this is how Odysseus, the man of many resources, began his tale. King Alcinous, most illustrious of your people, it is indeed a lovely thing to hear a bard such as this, with a voice like the voice of the gods. I myself feel that there is nothing more delightful than when the festive mood reigns in the hearts of all the people, and the banqueters listen to a minstrel from their seats in the hall, while the tables before them are laden with bread and meat, and a steward carries around the wine he has drawn from the bowl and fills their cups. This, to my way of thinking, is perfection. However, your heart has prompted you to ask me about my troubles, and that intensified my grief. Well, where shall I begin? Where end my tale? For the list of woes which the gods in heaven have sent me is a long one. I shall start by giving you my name. I wish you all to know it, so that in times to come, if I escape the evil day, I may always be your friend, though my home is far from here. I am Odysseus, Laertes' son. The whole world talks of my stratagems, and my fame has reached the heavens. My home is under the clear skies of Ithaca. Our landmark is Mount Neriton, with its quavering leaves. Other islands are clustered round it. Dulichium, and Same, and wooded Zacynthus. Zacynthus, even. But Ithaca, the farthest out to sea, lies slanting to the west, whereas the others face the dawn and the rising sun. It is a rough land, but nurtures fine men. And I, for one, know of no sweeter sight for a man's eyes than his own country. The divine Calypso was certainly for keeping me in her cavern home, because she yearned for me to be her husband, and with the same object Circe, the Aeaean witch, detained me in her palace. But never for a moment did they win my heart. So true it is that a man's fatherland and his parents are what he holds sweetest, even though he is settled far away from his people, in some rich home in foreign lands. However, let me tell you of the disastrous voyage Zeus inflicted on me when I started back from Troy. The same wind that wafted me from Ilium brought me to Ismarius, the city of the Cyclones. I sacked this place and destroyed its menfolk. The women and the vast plunder that we took from the town we divided so that no one, as far as I could help it, should go short with his proper share. And then I said we must escape with all possible speed. But my fools of men refused. There was plenty of wine, plenty of livestock, and they kept on drinking and butchering sheep and shambling crooked-horned cattle by the shore. Meanwhile, the Cyclones went and raised a cry for help among the other Cyclones, their inland neighbours, who were both more numerous and better men, trained in fighting from the chariot and on foot as well, when the occasion requires. At dawn they were on us, thick as the leaves and flowers in spring, and disaster, sent by Zeus to make us suffer, overtook my doomed companions and me. They fought a pitched battle by the swift ships and exchanged volleys of bronze spears. Right through the early morning, and while the blessed light of day grew stronger, we held our ground and kept their greater force at bay. But when the sun began to drop, towards the time when the ploughman unyoked his ox, the Cyclones gained the upper hand and broke the Achaean ranks. 6 of my strong-grieved comrades from each ship were killed. The rest of us eluded our fate and got away alive. We sailed on from Ismarus with heavy hearts, grieving for the loss of our dear companions, though rejoicing at our own escape. And I would not let the curved ship sail before each of our poor comrades who had fallen in action against the Cyclones had been 3 times saluted with a ritual call. Zeus, who marshals the clouds, now sent my fleet a terrible gale from the north. He covered land and sea alike with a canopy of cloud. Darkness swept down on us from the sky, our ships pitched and plunged in the wind, and the force of the gusts tore their sails to shreds and tatters. With the fear of death upon us, we lowered them onto the decks, and rowed the bare ships to land with all our might. We rested on land for 2 days and 2 nights, on end, with exhaustion and anxiety gnawing at our hearts. But on the 3rd morning, which bright-haired dawn had ushered in, we stepped the mast, hauled up the white sails, and took our places in the ship. The wind and the helmsman kept our vassals straight. In fact, I should have reached my own land safe and sound, had not the swell, the current, and the north wind combined, as I was rounding Malaya, to drive off my course and send me drifting past Cythera. For 9 days I was chased by those accursed winds across the teeming seas. But on the 10th we reached the country of the Lotus Eaters, a race that eats the flowery lotus fruit. We disembarked to draw water, and my crews quickly had a meal by the ships. When we had eaten and drunk, I sent some of my followers inland to find out what sort of human beings might be there, detailing 2 men for the duty, with a third as a herald. Off they went, and it was not long before they came upon the Lotus Eaters. Now, these natives had no intention of killing my comrades. What they did was give them some lotus to taste. Those who ate the honeyed fruit of the plant lost any wish to come back and bring us news. All they now wanted was to stay where they were with the Lotus Eaters, to browse on the lotus, and to forget all thoughts of return. I had to use force to bring them back into the hollow ships, and they wept on the way, but once on board, I tied them up and dragged them under the benches. I then commanded the rest of my loyal band to embark with all speed on the fast ships, for fear that others of them might eat the lotus and think no more of home. They came on board at once, took their places at their oars, and all together struck with the white surf with their blades. So we left that country, and sailed with heavy hearts, and we came to the land of the Cyclopes, a fierce, lawless people, who never lift a hand. Cyclopes, a fierce, lawless people, who never lift a hand to plant or plough, but just leave everything to the immortal gods. All the crops they require spring up unsown and untilled. Wheat and barley and vines, the generous clusters that swell with the rain from heaven to yield wine. The Cyclopes have no assemblies for making of the laws, nor any established legal codes, but live in hollow caverns in the mountain heights, where each man is a lawgiver to his own children and women, and nobody has the slightest interest in what his neighbours decide. Not very far from the harbour of the Cyclopes country, and not so near either, there lies a luxuriant island, covered with woods, which is the home of innumerable goats. The goats are wild, for the footsteps of a man never disturb them, nor do hunters visit the island, forcing their way through forests and ranging the mountain tops. Used neither for grazing nor for ploughing, it lies forever unsown and untilled. And this land, where no man goes, sports only bleating goats. The Cyclopes have nothing like our ships, with their crimson prows. They had no shipwrights to build merchantmen that could give them the means of sailing across the sea to visit foreign towns and people, as other nations do. Such craftsmen would have turned the island into a fine colony for the Cyclopes. It is by no means a poor country, but capable of yielding any crop in due season. Along the shore of the grey sea there are lush water meadows where the grapes would never fail, and there is a land level enough for the plough, where they could count on cutting a tall standing crop at every harvest, because the subsoil is exceedingly rich. Also, it has a safe harbour in which there is no need of moorings, no need to cast anchor or make fast with hawsers. All your crew need do is beach their ship and wait till the spirit moves them and the right wind blows. Finally, at the head of the harbour, there is a stream of fresh water, running out of a cave in a grove of poplar trees. This is where we came to land. Some god must have guided us through the murky night, for it was impossible to see ahead. The ships were in a thick fog, and overhead not a gleam of light came through from the moon, which was obscured by clouds. Not a man among us caught sight of the island, nor did we even see the long breakers rolling up to the coast, before our good ships ran aground. It was not till they were beached that we lowered sail. We then jumped out onto shore, fell asleep where we were, and so waited for the blessed light of day. As soon as dawn appeared, fresh and rosy-fingered, we were delighted with what we saw of the island, and set out to explore it. Presently the nymphs, those children of Zeus, set their mountain goats on the move to ensure my companions a meal. Directly we saw them, we fetched our curved bows and our long spears from the ships, separated into 3 parties, and began shooting at the goats. And in a short time, the god had sent us plenty of game. When it was shared out, 9 goats were allotted to each of the 12 ships under my command, but to me alone they made an allotment of 10. So the whole day long till the sun set, we sat down to rich supplies of meat and mellow wine, since the ships had not yet run dry of our red vintage. There were still some of the holds from when we took out for the sacred citadel of the Cyclones. Every member of the company had drawn up a generous supply in jars. There we sat, and as we looked across the neighbouring land of the Cyclopes, we could see the smoke from their fires and hear their voices, and the bleating of their sheep and goats. The sun went down. Night fell, and we lay down to sleep on the seashore. As soon as dawn appeared, fresh and rosy-fingered, I assembled my company and spoke to them. "My good friends," I said, "I, for the time being, stay here, while I go in my ship with my crew to find out what kind of men are over there, and whether they are aggressive savages with no sense of right or wrong, or hospitable and God-fearing people." Then I climbed into my ship and told my men to follow me and loose the hawsers. They came on board at once, took their places at the oars, and all together struck the white surf with the blades. It was no great distance to the mainland. As we approached its nearest point, we made out a cave close to the sea, with a high entrance overhung by laurels. Here, large flocks of sheep and goats were penned at night, and round the mouth of yard had been built with a great wall of quarried stones and tall pines, and high-branched oaks. It was the den of a giant, who pastured his flocks alone, a long way away from anyone else, and had no truck with the others of his kind, but lived aloof in his own lawless way. And what a formidable monster he was! He was quite unlike any man who eats bread, more like some wooded peak in the high hill standing out alone apart from the others. At this point, I told the rest of my loyal companions to stay there on guard by the ship, but I myself picked out the 12 best men in the company and advanced. I took with me in a goatskin some dark and mellow wine, which had been given to me by Maron, son of Euanthes, the priest of Apollo, the tutelary god of Ismarus, because we had protected him and his child and wife out of respect for his office. He lived in a wooded grove, sacred to Phoebus Apollo. The man had given me some fine presents, 7 talents of wrought gold, with a mixing bowl of solid silver, and he drew off for me a dozen jars of mellow, unmixed wine as well. It was a wonderful drink. It had been kept secret from all his serving men and maids, in fact from everyone in the house but himself, his good wife, and a housekeeper. To drink this red and honeyed vintage, he would pour 1 cupful of wine into 20 of water, and the bouquet that rose from the bowl was pure heaven. Those were occasions when abstinence could have no charms. Well, I filled a big goatskin with this wine and also took some food in the bag with me, for I had an instant foreboding that we were going to find ourselves face to face with some barbarous being of colossal strength and ferocity, uncivilized and unprincipled. It took us very little time to reach the cave, but we did not find its owner at home. He was tending his fat sheep in the pastures. So we went inside and looked in amazement at everything. There were baskets laden with cheeses, and the folds were thronged with lambs and kids, each group, the spring ones, the summer ones, and the newborn ones, being separately penned. All his well-made vessels, the pails and bowls he used for milking, were swimming with whey. To start with, my men begged me to let them take away some of the cheeses, then come back, drive the kids and lambs quickly out of the pens, down to the good ship, and so set sail across the salt water. But though it would have been far better so, I was not to be persuaded. I wished to see the owner of the cave, and had hopes of some friendly gifts from my host. But when he did appear, my men were not going to find him a very likeable character. We lit a fire, made an offering to the gods, helped to sell some of the cheeses, and when we had eaten, sat down in the cave to await his arrival. At last he came up, shepherding his flocks and carrying a huge bundle of dry wood to burn at supper time. With a great crash, he threw down inside the cavern. He threw this down inside the cavern, giving us such a fright that we hastily retreated to an inner recess. Meanwhile, he drove some of his fat flock into the wider part of the cave. All the ones he was milking, the rams and the he-goats, he left all out of doors in the walled yard. He then picked up a huge stone, with which he closed the entrance. It was a mighty slab. 22 four-wheeled wagons could not shift such a massive stone from the entrance. Such was the monstrous size of the rock with which he closed the cave. Next, he sat down to milk his ewes and his bleating goats, which he did methodically, putting her young to each mother as he finished. He then curdled half the white milk, collected the whey, and stored it in the wicker cheese baskets. The remainder he left standing in pails, so that it would be handy at supper time when he wanted a drink. When he had efficiently finished all his tasks, he relit the fire and spied us.
"Strangers!" he cried. "And who are you? Where do you come from, over the watery ways? Is it a trading venture? Or are you cruising the main on chance, like roving pirates who risk their lives to ruin other people?"
Our hearts sank. The booming voice and the very sight... Actually, hang on a second. Let's try this again.
"Strangers!" he cried. "And who are you? Where do you come from over the watery ways? Is yours a trading venture? Or are you cruising the main on chance, like roving pirates who risk their lives to ruin other people?"
Our hearts sank. The booming voice and the very sight of the monster filled us with panic. Still, I managed to find words to answer him. "We are Achaeans," I said, "on our way back from Troy, driven astray by contrary winds across the vast expanse of sea. We're making our way home, but took the wrong way, the wrong route, as Zeus, I suppose, intended that we should. We are proud to say that we belong to the forces of Agamemnon, Atreus' son, who, by sacking the great city of Ilium and destroying all its armies, has made himself the most famous man in the world today. We find ourselves here as suppliants at your knees, in the hope that you may give us hospitality, or even give us the kind of gifts that hosts customarily give their guests. Good sir, remember your duty to the gods. We are your suppliants, and Zeus is the champion of suppliants and guests. He is the god of guests. Guests are sacred to him, and he goes alongside them." That is what I said, and he answered me promptly, out of his pitiless heart.
"Stranger, you must be a fool, or must have come from very far afield to order me to fear or reverence the gods. We Cyclopes care nothing for Zeus with his aegis, nor for the rest of the blessed gods, since we are much stronger than they are. I would never spare you or your men for fear of incurring Zeus' enmity, unless I felt like it. But tell me where you are moored, your good ship when you came. Was it somewhere along the coast or nearby? I'd like to know."
His words were designed to get the better of me. But he could not outwit someone with my knowledge of the world. I answered with plausible words. "That's my ship. It was wrecked by the earthshaker Poseidon on the borders of your land. The wind had carried it on us to lee shore. He drove the ship up to a headland and hurled it on the rocks. But I and my friends here managed to escape with our lives." To this, the cruel brute made no reply. Instead, he jumped up, and reaching out towards my men, seized a couple, and dashed their heads against the floor as though they had been puppies. Their brains ran out on the ground and soaked the earth. Limb by limb, he tore them to pieces to make his meal, which he devoured like a mountain lion, leaving nothing, neither entrails nor flesh, marrow nor bones, while we, weeping, lifted up our hands to Zeus in horror at the ghastly sight. We felt completely helpless. When the Cyclops had filled his great belly with this meal of human flesh, which he washed down with unwatered milk, he stretched himself out for sleep among his flock inside the cave. On first thoughts, I planned to summon my courage, draw my sharp sword from the scabbard at my side, creep up to him, feel for the right place with my hand, and stab him in the breast with the lever supported by the midriff. But on second thoughts, I refrained, realizing that we would seal our own fate as well as his, because we would have found it impossible with our unaided hands to push aside the huge rock with which he closed the great mouth of the cave. So with sighs and groans, we waited for the blessed light of day. As soon as dawn appeared, fresh and rosy-fingered, the Cyclops relit the fire and milked the splendid ewes and goats, all in their proper order, putting her young to each. Having efficiently completed all these tasks, he once more snatched up a couple of my men and prepared his meal. When he had eaten, he turned his plump flocks out of the cave, removing the great doorstone without an effort, but he replaced it with once more, as though he were putting the lid on a quiver. Then, with frequent whistles, he drove his plump flocks off toward the mountain, and I was left with murder in my heart. Scheming how to pay him, but out, if only Athene would grant me my prayer. The best plan I could think of was this. Thank you, Commodore. Lying by the pen, the Cyclopes had a huge staff of green olive wood, which he had cut to carry in his hand. But the Cyclops had a huge staff of green olive wood, which he had cut to carry in his hand when it was seasoned. To us, it looked more like a mast of some black ship of 20 oars, a broad-bottomed merchantman, such as makes the long sea voyages. That was the impression which its length and thickness made on us. Standing beside this piece of timber, I cut off a fathom's length, which I handed over to my men and told them to smooth it down. When they had done this, I stood and sharpened it to a point. When I hardened it in the fire, and I finally and carefully hid it into the dung of which, and finally, there I hardened it in the fire, and finally I carefully hid it under the dung, of which there were great heaps scattered throughout the cave. I then told my company to cast lots for the dangerous task of helping me lift the pole and twist it in the Cyclops' eye when he was sound asleep. The lot fell on the very men that I myself would have chosen, 4 of them, so that counting myself, we made a party of 5. Evening came, and with it the Cyclops, shepherding his plump flocks, every one of which he herded into the broad cave, leaving none out in the walled yard, either because he suspected something, or because a god had ordered him to. He lifted the great doorstone, set it in its place, and then sat down to milk his ewes and bleating goats, which he did methodically, giving each mother its young one in due course. When he had efficiently completed all these tasks, he once more snatched 2 of us and prepared his supper. Then, with an olive wood bowl of my dark wine in my hands, I went up to him and said, "Here, Cyclops, have some wine to wash down that meal of human flesh, and find out for yourself what kind of vintage was stored away in our ship's hold. I brought it out for you as an offering, in the hope that you would take pity on me, and help me on my homeward way. But your savagery is more than we can bear. Hard-hearted man, how can you expect ever to have a visitor again from the world of men? You have not behaved rightly." The Cyclops took the wine and drank it up, and the delicious drink gave him such exquisite pleasure that he asked me for another bowlful.
"Give me more, please, and tell me your name here and now. I would like to make you a gift that will please you. We Cyclopes have wine of our own made from the grapes that our rich soil and rains from Zeus produce. But this vintage of yours is a drop of the real nectar and ambrosia."
So said the Cyclops, and I handed him another bowlful of the sparkling wine, 3 times I filled it for him, and 3 times the fool drained the bowl to the dregs. At last, when the wine had fuddled his wits, I addressed him with soothing words. "Cyclops," I said, "you ask me my name. I'll tell it to you. And in return, give me the gift you promised me. My name is Nobody. That is what I am called by my mother and father, and by all my friends." The Cyclops answered me from his cruel heart.
Of all his company, I will eat nobody last, and the rest before him. That shall be your gift.
He had hardly spoken before he toppled over and fell face upwards on the floor, where he lay with his great neck twisted on one side, and all-compelling sleep overpowered him. In this drunken stupor he vomited, and a stream of wine mixed with morsels of men's flesh poured from his throat. I went at once and thrust our pole deep under the ashes of the fire to make it hot, and meanwhile gave a word of encouragement to all my men to make sure that no one would hang back through fear. When the fierce glow from the olive oil stake warned for me that it was about to catch alight in the flames, green as it was, I withdrew it from the fire, and my men gathered round. A god now inspired them with tremendous courage. Seizing the olive pole, they drove its sharpened end into the Cyclops' eye, while I used my weight from above to twist it home like a man boring a ship's timber with drill, with which his mates below him twirl with a strap they hold at either end, so that it spins continuously. In much the same way we handled our pole, with its red-hot point, and twisted it in his eye till the blood boiled up round the burning wood. The scorching heat singed his lids and brow all round, while his eyeball blazed and the very roots crackled in the flame. The Cyclops' eye hissed round the olive stake in the same way that an axe or adze hisses when a smith plunges it into cold water to quench and strengthen the iron. He gave a dreadful shriek, which echoed round the rocky walls. And we backed away from him in terror, while he pulled the stake from his eye, streaming with blood. Then he hurled it away from him with frenzied hands, and raised a great shout to the other Cyclopes, who lived in neighbouring caves along the windy heights. Hearing his screams, they came up from every quarter, and gathering outside the cave, asked him what the matter was.
What on earth is wrong with you, Polyphemus? Why must you disturb the peaceful night and spoil our sleep with all this shouting? Is a robber driving off your sheep, or somebody trying by treachery or violence to kill you?
Out of the cave came mighty Polyphemus, his voice in reply.
Oh, my friends, it's nobody's treachery, not violence, that is doing me to death. Well then,
came the immediate reply,
if you are alone and nobody's assaulting you, you must be sick, and sickness comes from Almighty Zeus, and cannot be helped. All you can do is pray to your father, the Lord Poseidon.
And off they went, while I laughed to myself at the way in which my cunning notion of a false name had taken them in. The Cyclops, still moaning in agonies of pain, groped about with his hand, and pushed the rock away from the mouth of the cave. Then he sat himself down in the doorway, and stretched out both arms in the hope of catching us in the act of slipping out among the sheep. What a fool he must have thought me! Meanwhile, I was cudgelling my brains the best possible course, trying to hit on some way of saving my friends as well as myself. I thought of plan after plan, scheme after scheme. It was a matter of life or death. We were in mortal peril. This was the scheme that eventually seemed best. The rams of the flock were of good stock, thick-fleeced, fine, big animals in their coats of black wool. These I quietly lashed together with the plaited willow twigs, which the inhuman monster used for his bed. I took them in threes. The middle one was to carry one of my followers, with its followers on either side to protect him. Each of my men thus had 3 rams to bear him, but for myself I chose a full-grown ram, who was the pick of the whole flock. Seizing him by the back, I curled myself up under his shaggy belly, and lay there upside down, with a firm grip on his wonderful fleece, and with patience in my heart. In this way, with sighs and groans, we waited for the blessed dawn. As soon as she arrived, fresh and rosy-fingered, the he-goats and rams began to scramble about and make for the pastures, but the females, unmilked as they were, and with udders full bursting, stood bleating by the pens. Their master, though tortured in terrible agony, passed his hands along the backs of all the animals as they stopped in front of him. But the idiot never noticed that my men were tied under the chests of his own woolly rams. The last of the flock to come out of the doorway was the big ram, burdened by his own fleece, and by me with my thoughts racing. As I felt him with his hands, the great Polyphemus broke into speech.
"Sweet ram," he said, "why are you the last of the flock to pass out of the cave like this? You have never before lagged behind the others, but always stepped so proudly out, and are the first of them to crop the lush shoots of the grass, first to make your way to the flowing stream, and first to want to return to the fold when evening falls. Yet today, you are the last of all. You must be grieved for your master's eye, blinded by a wicked man and his accursed friends, when he had robbed me of my wits with wine. Nobody was his name, and I swear that he has not yet saved his skin. If only you could feel as I do, and find a voice to tell me where he's hiding from my fury. I'd hammer him and splash his brains all over the floor of the cave, and my heart would find some relief from the suffering with that nothing, that nobody has caused me."
So he let the ram pass through the entrance, and when we had put a little distance between ourselves and the courtyard of the cave, I first let go of my ram, and then untied my men. Then, quickly, though with many a backward look, we drove our long-striding sheep and goats, a rich fat flock, right down to the ship. My dear companions were overjoyed when they caught sight of us survivors, but broke into loud lamentations for the others. With nods and frowns, I indicated silently that they should stop their weeping, and hurry to bundle the fleecy ship and goats on board and put to sea. So they went on board at once, took their places at the oars, and all together struck the white water with blades. But before we were out of earshot, I shouted out derisive words at Polyphemus. "Cyclops! So he was not such a weakling after all, the man whose friends you meant to overpower and eat in your hollow cave. And in your crimes are bound to catch up with you, you brute, who did not shrink from devouring your guests. Now Zeus and all the other gods have paid you out." My words so enraged the Cyclops that he tore the top of the great pinnacle off the rock and hurled it at us. The rock fell just ahead of us, ahead of our blue-painted bows. Bows, even, it's a ship bow. As it plunged in, the water surged up in the backwash, like a swell from the open sea, swept us landward, and nearly drove us onto the beach. Seizing a long pole, I pushed the ship off, at the same time commanding my crew and urgent nods to bend their oars and save us from disaster. They leant forward and rowed with a will, but when they had taken us across the water to twice our previous distance, I was about to shout something else to Cyclops, but from all parts of the ship my men called out, trying to restrain and pacify me. "Why do you want to provoke the savage in this obstinate way? The rock he threw into the sea just now drove the ship back into the land, and we thought it was all up with us. Had he heard the cry, so much as a word from a single man, he'd have smashed in our heads with the ship's timbers and another jagged boulder from his hand. We're within easy range of him." But my temper was up. Their words did not dissuade me, and in my rage I shouted back at him once more. "Cyclops, if anyone ever asks you how you came by your blindness, tell him your eye was put out by Odysseus, sacker of cities, the son of Laertes who lives in Ithaca." And the Cyclops gave a groan.
Alas!
He cried.
Those ancient prophecies have come back to me now. We had a prophet living with us once, a great and mighty man. Eurymus' son Telemus, the best of soothsayers, who grew old as a seer among us Cyclopes. All that has now happened he foretold, when he warned me that a man called Odysseus would rob me of my sight. But I always expected some big, handsome man of tremendous strength to come along. And now, a puny, feeble, good-for-nothing fuddles me with wine and then puts out my eye. But come here, Odysseus, so that I can give you some friendly gifts to prevail out on the great Earthshaker, Poseidon, to see you safely home. For I am his son, and he is proud to call himself my father. He is the one who will heal me, if he's willing. A thing no other blessed god, nor any man on earth could do.
Let me drink some water. To which I shouted in reply, I only wish I could make as sure of robbing you of your life. I only wish I could make as sure of robbing you of life and breath and sending you to hell, as I am certain that not even the eighth shirker will ever heal your eye. At this, the Cyclops lifted up his hands to the starry heavens and prayed to the Lord Poseidon.
Hear me, Poseidon, sustainer of the earth, god of the sable locks. If I am yours indeed, and you claim me as your son, grant that Odysseus, sacker of cities and son of Laertes, may never reach his home in Ithaca. But if he is destined to see his friends again, to come once more to his own house, and to reach his native land, let him come late, in wretched plight, having lost all his comrades, in a foreign ship, and let him find trouble in his home.
So Polyphemus prayed, and the god of the sable locks heard his prayer. Once again the Cyclops picked up a boulder, bigger by far this time, and hurled it with a swing, putting such tremendous force into his throw that the rock fell only just astern of our blue-painted ship, narrowly missing the tip of the rudder. The water heaved up as it plunged into the sea, but the wave that is raised carried us on towards the farther shore. And so we reached our island, where the rest of our good ships were all waiting for us. Oh, wait, I just lost my place even. Their crews sitting around, disconsolate, and keeping a constant watch for our return. Once there, we beached our ship, jumped out onto the shore, and unloaded the Cyclops' flocks in the hold. We then divided our spoil so that no one, as far as I could help it, should go short of his proper share. But my comrades in arms did me the special honour, when the sheep and goats were distributed, of presenting me with a big ram in addition. Him I sacrificed on the beach, burning slices from his thighs and offering to Zeus the black cloud, the son of Cronos, who is lord of all. But Zeus took no notice of my sacrifice. His mind must already have been full of plans for destruction of all my fine ships and of my loyal band. So the whole day long, till sundown, we sat and feasted on our rich supply of meat and mellow wine. When the sun set and darkness fell, we lay down to sleep on the seashore. As soon as dawn appeared, fresh and rosy-fingered, I roused my men and ordered them to go on board and cast off. They climbed on board at once, took their places at the oars, and all together struck the white surf with blades. Thus we left the island, and sailed on with heavy hearts, grieving for the dear friends we had lost, but glad at our own escape from death. I am so hot in this room. Yeah, that's the end of book 9. That's the end of the story of Odysseus and the Polyphemus, the Cyclops. Um, I will be discussing the book in a moment. I'm just desperately in need of getting some water. I'll be back in a moment, folks. Just 2 minutes, please. I'm just going to walk around, get some water. Love the effects. Thank you, Commodore. I appreciate that. If not now, then when? But yeah, no, I'll just be back in 2 moments, folks. Just gonna get some water, move about a bit, and put my fan on Miriam as well. 1 second, please. Pickle, thank you so much for the gifted subs. That 3 gifted subs. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. For the gifted subs, it's incredibly kind of you, Pickle. Thank you so much. Really, you don't need to do that if you don't. You've been gifting a lot of subs. I'm not used to this at all. I don't think anyone gives subs normally. Are you sure you can afford this? I hope this is okay. You don't need to do that if you can't afford it. It's absolutely fine. But thank you so much. It's incredibly generous of you. Thank you so much, Pickle. I am sadly employed. Okay. Well, as long as you can... I like the streams. Thank you then, Pickle. I do appreciate it. It's very, very kind of you. Absolute sweetheart. Thank you so much. But yeah, no, as long as you're okay with it, please don't... You're not obligated to, obviously, but I'm extremely, extremely grateful. Thank you so much. It's incredibly, incredibly kind of you to do so. Very, 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 very indebted. Thank you so much. Okay. Let's calm down a moment. Let's talk about let's talk about book 9, the Cyclops. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff here. Let's just go from the very beginning where he's introducing himself. He talks about how I am Odysseus, son of Laertes. And he talks about how his stratagems and my fame have reached the heavens. And this sounds rather prideful. And indeed, it could be taken as a sign of hubris. But the thing is, this is knowledge. The people are singing songs about Odysseus and his strategies, and all these Phaeacians know about Odysseus. They've heard of him. So he's more just stating facts here than anything. So it's not prideful at all. It's not hubris. It would be like if Keanu Reeves said, "Oh yeah, I'm Keanu Reeves. You know, a lot of people know me." It's, if anything, he's kind of underplaying it, you know, but yeah, Keanu Reeves, you know, I've been in a couple films, you know, and I'd say I'm a pretty well-known actor, I guess. He'd be very nice. I bet Keanu Reeves would be very nice about it as well, actually. He would be very humble about it. Yeah, I know, I've been in a couple of big films, you know, nothing, you know, I just living life, you know. Actually, I've heard he's in a very good relationship now. Good for him. I remember he was, like, married once. Unfortunately, both him and his child died in childbirth. Very, very sad history, that man. Good on him. But yes, Keanu Reeves aside, would Keanu Reeves be good as Odysseus? I don't know. Yeah, so it talks absolutely not. I guess he's too humble for Odysseus. He doesn't have the pride element. Yeah, so there's a lot of here. He talks about a lot about Ithaca. Now, there's actually a bit of debate here about whether Homer actually knew what Ithaca was like. It was very likely that Homer had never been to Ithaca because he was, I believe, on the west coast, getting nearer to Turkey, if I remember correctly. Actually, maybe I'm misremembering that, but he was initially Homer when he had composed this. He was originally not from mainland Greece, Achaea as they call it here, but from a place they had colonized essentially later on. And again, this was being written in the 800s, so 800 BC. So, no, you're right. He was here. Excellent. Oh, you're Turkish, Pickle. Cool. But yes, he had likely never been to Ithaca. So, it's interesting here. He talks about the description of Ithaca here, and it's likely not. It's not what Ithaca is normally like. Nor are a lot of the descriptions, though. Also, it just paints such a wonderful picture of Ithaca. I don't think anyone really minds. Obviously, there are things which are accurate. So I imagine if he'd never at least been there, he had read about Ithaca and what it's like. So it may be that the information he's got has been embellished is wrong, or it may be just be embellished for or changed for, you know, dramatic poetic effect. I think of the book In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. That was a non-fiction novel in which Truman Capote was writing a novel about an ongoing crime story about the murder of this one family, and no one knew who did it. And it's all about that, the book In Cold Blood. In that, whilst all his stuff is based on the real events which happened, which he was directly involved with, a lot of this stuff is also embellished for you know, poetic licensing, artistic licensing. I think it was a black, what is it? The funeral, black hearse, isn't it? So the actual murderers of this case which in Cold Blood talks about, where driving in a green hearse, he changes to a black hearse. This is one example. He changes to a black hearse. You know, it's like a black hearse funeral car. Death. They're driving in to deliver death. Obviously, this is like that's like thousands of years later, but it may have been the case with this, though. There's some speculation on that, though. But yes. Either way, there's this beautiful statement here. It is a rough land, but nature's fine men, and I, for one, know of no sweeter sight than a man's eyes. No sweeter sight for a man's eyes than his own country. And there's this lovely, lovely sense of what they would call nostos here. This homesickness, this longing for home, nostos. It's where it's where you can probably tell where we get the word nostalgia, nostos. So yeah, a little etymology lesson for you there. Nostos is the root of nostalgia. Yes, so he talks here about how both Calypso and Circe tried to detain him in order to make him theirs. We'll get on to that. We'll get on to that when I get to Circe, and again, we'll have to bring it up again about this whole thing of, like, despite the fact he seemingly loves his wife and wants to return home, he's sleeping with other women, but that's not right now. We'll get to that at a later point. He even says, but never for a moment did they win my heart. They just won your dick, I guess. With their pussy. Anyway, vulgar language aside about vaginas. Actually, I was watching a clip from the VTuber Mario_en, and she was talking about how she can't make, like, sex jokes. Not because she doesn't want to, because I can think of so many funny jokes, but because Amy Schumer's ruined it for her. She said she can't make jokes anymore because people just think she's like Amy Schumer. And listen, if you've never watched Amy Schumer, so when I first saw Amy Schumer, I'm like, oh, this is funny. And she made sure, oh, that was a pretty funny joke. I'm like, oh, okay, it's another joke. And the thing is, you very quickly realize Amy Schumer's whole shtick is, I'm a woman talking about sex. And that's her entire bit, and there's nothing else to it. And it's like, okay. Do you have any other jokes? Like, when I tell you about my pussy? And I'm like, okay, that's lovely. Seriously. What about like a funny interaction you had? Yeah, I had an interaction with my pussy, and I'm like, okay, lovely. Penises, am I right? Listen, and her defense to this is, well, all male comics do is talk about sex. I can list dozens of male comedians who do not do that. Yes, it can come up, but they talk about lots of other stuff as well. Many who don't talk about sex at all. One of my favorite comics is Tim Vine. He's a pun meister. He'll just spout puns out for no end. One of my favorite jokes is actually I was out for a meal. I was having a meal at my boss's house, and his wife was serving up food, and it says, "Oh, would you like any new potatoes, Tim?" Like, "Oh, just one, please." And she said, "Oh, Tim, there's no need to be so polite." Like, all right then, just one, you stupid cow. But yes, Michael McIntyre, lots of jokes which aren't about, like, sex and stuff, and it's a very poor defense. Anyway, why are we talking about Amy Schumer here? Why are we comparing all this stuff to Amy Schumer? Maybe she's like the modern poet of our age, and we just don't recognize it yet. What do I know? Circe's puss. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was just imagining. I can't do that. If you had the chance to fuck a witch, would you? Anyway, enough about this nonsense. You have the thing here. Odysseus, the first thing he does after starting his travels away from Troy. Well, actually, we noted earlier on from Nestor something which is omitted here. He actually had a false start. He decided to head out, but then went back to Troy to do some other stuff, to still share out with the treasures and such. And this is his actual start, I'm guessing. I guess he ignored that part here, but Nestor knows. Nestor has given us the full story. Thank you, Nestor, King Nestor. But yes. So he went to Ismaris, the city of the Cyclone people, the Cyclones, and they have they commit bad Xenia here, right? They commit bad Xenia again. Xenia, the process of like hospitality, of guest hospitality, and this is bad Xenia. They now okay. First off, they have the right now, as they are an invading party. This is not a good look for them. However, it would have been understood by the audience that if they are an invading party and they have won, they have the right to raid what they want because they've beaten them through raw force. And power talks. Power is the ultimate talker in the end of the day. This is here, but my fools of men refused. Plenty of wine and livestock, and they kept on drinking and butchering sheep and shambling crooked horn cattle by the shore. Lack of Xenia here. They're just being overly greedy and overly zealous here when they don't need to be. And obviously this ends up biting them in the butt when the allies of the Cyclone come in from inshore and fight them off and kill. Is it 6 men per ship? Is it? And there's like about 12 ships, so a good portion of their crew is killed off by the Cyclones here. And these aren't like a savage tribe. These are civilized people. They've just decided to invade because they could. Bit of a dick move, honestly. No reason for it. They just wanted to. Circe's puss. Indeed, Thorn. Indeed. Her pussycat. Lesser known character of the Odyssey is Circe's dear cat, Cleo. Yup. That's what we're talking about. Isn't that right, fellas? Just Cleo. Yep. Anyway, how you doing, Thorn? I hope you're well. Pickle, at least try to sound believable. Good God. By Zeus. Anyway, so yes, but yeah, it kind of does not start them off on a very good foot but again, they have already engaging in war. What's one more battle for them, I guess. That's the mentality. And again, if they've won through conquest, they have the rights to do this. But yeah, again, they end up losing lots of soldiers, and they pay the price for it. And then they get caught in a storm, obviously. We're going to see that a lot. No Nigeria. What about Nigeria? What? Also, it looks like you're... I thought you were trying to, like, do English there. Like, no Nigeria. But no, I don't know when you're... It was called Nigra. Oh, you mean here where they're invading? Well, maybe they will do... No, they don't go. They don't go there. I can assure you that. That's okay. Oh, right, yes. Oh, they mean the sound reads. Yes, I turned them off, Thorn, because we're reading today. No sound redeems on reading day. I'm sorry, you'll have to wait for next time. But yes, so they get caught in a storm. There's a lot of imagery here about the gods conspiring against them here. He says, in fact, I should have reached my own land, safe and sound, and not the swell, the current of the north, and the current of the north wind combined as I was rounding Malaya. And all this stuff here about, on the third morning, which bright-haired dawn ushered in, we stepped the mass. You know, dawn has ushered in this day, and all these things are conspiring against. It feels like everything is conspiring against them. It's a godly divine intervention. And yeah, this happened for 9 days. For 9 days, I was chased by those accursed winds across the teeming seas. Now, here we get to one of the more memorable beings from the story, the Lotus Eaters. Now, I want to talk about Epic the Musical here. I don't think, and a lot of art that a lot of people do for Epic the Musical, the Lotus Eaters are not shown to be humanoid at all. Rather, they're these little creatures. So artists draw them different ways, but a lot of the time they tend to be rather like adorable little creatures who just go and hang around. And the Lotus Eaters in here are they're humans, basically. They're not like monsters at all. Not really. However, it's interesting. It does classify them as a different race. It says here, the Lotus Eaters are a race that eat the flowery lotus fruits. Oh, actually, just one other thing before. So it mentions here about Malaya and Cythera, which are the places which they got sent from the storms. Just a note here. Malaya and Cythera are the last places on Odysseus' journey that can be found on a map. Scholars have naturally enjoyed speculating about the rest of his journey. So that's an interesting point. Everything else from here on out is speculation as to where he could have gone to. I hope you enjoy your D&D game then, Thorn. I hope everything goes well with the new character you're making. Excuse me, I'm gonna hiccup. I feel like a hiccup and a burp coming along. I don't want to do that now. Anyway, yes. So we have the Lotus Eaters. A lot of danger here. Those who ate the honeyed fruit of the plant lost any wish to come back and bring us news, and obviously when they're trying to get home, the biggest danger, a big danger here you can have is the desire to no longer want to get back home. Interesting that this Lotus Eater story arc is so quick, realistically, but it's very, very popular. I think a lot of people have just been drawn over the years by the idea of this lotus flower, this plant which makes you lose all your desires, all your will. It just drains you of it and you're forced into utter complacency. I think many people over the millennia since this was penned have been very drawn to the idea of such a powerful plant, a powerful poison of the fruit. But yes, some of his crewmates eat it, and he has to forcibly bring them back and tie them up. I imagine that the effects of the lotus flower can go away eventually if you just don't eat it, but I don't know if we find that out actually. But hopefully they'll be okay. So, let's talk about the Cyclopes. The Cyclops. Everyone knows what a Cyclops is. The Cyclops is one of the most commonly used monsters in fiction today. Everyone knows what they are. They're big dudes. They're big giants with a single eye. Sometimes how they got that eye is debated. Sometimes they were born with it. Now I've heard a story which is rather fun about how. Now again, I can't remember where I heard this story from. Again, a lot of these things are just kind of spread around, so some of them may be more older than others. I'm not sure, but one of my favorite stories about the Cyclopes, is that they originally had two eyes, but I believe they made a deal with the Fates or some other god that they would sacrifice in order to become more powerful. They would give up their two normal eyes for a third eye, which could see into the future. And they all thought cumulatively, oh, this is a rather good deal, let's do this. And so they did that, only to find that the only future they could see was their own death. And, you know, this is a classic tale of Greek irony. Kind of like that story about the guy, I can't remember his name now. Chat, you'll know this. Who was it, the fellow that was given immortality, but was not given eternal youth? And so he lived forever, but was aging all the time. What was his name now? Was it Pygmalion? I feel that's wrong. Why am I thinking of the name Pygmalion? That's probably incorrect. Either way, I'm sure you guys have heard that story. You don't need me to go into that story in detail. But yeah, everyone knows what a Cyclops is. Cyclops are in D&D, even. But yeah. There's an interesting way the Cyclopes are described here. Which is that they're an interesting dichotomy of seemingly savage tendencies, like a lack of civilization, but mixed with hints of it. So let's just look here, for example. It says here, it was a fierce, lawless people who never lift a hand to plant or plow, which is eat everything to the immortal god. So they're foragers, right? For basically all of human history, a sign of development, of civilization, has been farming, right? If you want to take a later example, it's unfortunately one of the reasons why many European countries thought it right to dunk on a lot of African countries, even before they even were countries, on the entire continent, because a lot of places had not developed farming, at least not to the degree which a lot of other European countries had. So there you go. Rather unfortunate, but yes, they're foragers. And whilst foraging is fine, they have no form of farming at all, which is, again, a lack of civilization here. They have no assemblies for the making of laws, nor any established legal codes, but live in hollow caverns in the mountain heights, where each man is a lawgiver to his own children and women, and nobody has the slightest interest in what his neighbors decide. Now, let's talk about that little tidbit there. Because, yes, it is rather uncivilized to live in a land with no laws, to have no lawmakers at all. And to have a place where, as it says, nobody has the slightest interest in what their neighbors decide. However, it would have been completely acceptable at this time, and the audience would have understood this, if there is no suitable law in order to fix a problem going on. It is the household's responsibility and their right to enact their own justice on a situation. Where do we know, in the Odyssey at the moment, where there is a household which has seemingly become bereft of law and is needing some kind of household to fix what is going on, to decide its own laws and exact its own justice? Any givers, any quotes, any guesses on who this could be? Thorn, I am very happy you're excited about your D&D character. We're going to talk about Odyssey though at the moment, so I'm sorry if I don't. I'm sorry if I don't respond to all of your D&D stuff. I'm sorry, friend. I know you're very excited though. Lycanthropy, I see. There's a lot going on there, my friend. But yes, no. Odysseus' home, obviously, it's overrun by suitors who are kind of forgoing any kind of normal laws, and it basically, and with no one else around to basically fight them, right, or to fend them off even, or tell them off. All the remaining men of Ithaca are very old, right? So they're not fighters. They can't fight them off. There's no soldiers left in Ithaca, realistically. So they're in a rather poor position at home in Ithaca, where Odysseus would basically need to come in and make laws, because and enact his own family's justice in order to beat them out. But yeah, I just think that's an interesting parallel here. It's fine. I'm currently making the character, so I'm just listening to the background. No problem, Thorn. No, I'll have a redo it later on. No, don't worry. Actually, wait, hang on. I didn't realize that. You know what? I'm going to ask about lycanthropy mechanics in D&D, and I feel that's going to be a whole other tangent, and we're already getting into tangents already. Do you have any suggestions for a male elf name, Elijah? Enoch. Maybe that's too harsh for an elf name, but I kind of like the idea of having a CH sound at the end of it. A bit unorthodox, but I don't know, I kind of like the idea of it naming Enoch. Or Enoch, maybe. Like from the Book of Enoch? Yes. Or maybe you could do Enoch, actually. Maybe that would be more elf-like. I can... E-N-I-K-K, Enoch. It's up to you. Those are my suggestions. But yes, like the biblical book. Name him Bob. Ah, yes, my favorite elf name. Bob. Bob. But yes. So there's this interesting thing here where it describes the Cyclope as... Yes, Enoch. It can be spelled like E or I, can't it? Anyway. So we have, Oh no, so Enoch. Sorry, did I say Enoch? I said Enoch. I-N-I-K-K. No, E-N-I-K-K. Enoch. That could be an interesting name for an elf. Now, again, I don't know how commonly in Dungeons and Dragons they name elves with hard sounds at the end of them. They'd probably think they're too above it. The tongues of humanity with their elven speech, which is basically Welsh, by the way. In Lord of the Rings, Tolkien basically just got a lot of Elven from Welsh. So yeah, the more you know. Not entirely, but you know, it's basically Welsh. Enoch, yes. It was a character from Goddess of Victory, Nike. Well, I don't want to talk about it. She's kind of like she's an interesting figure, though. Anyway, so the goats are wild, for the footsteps of man never disturb them, nor do the hunters visit the island. The Cyclops have nothing like our ships with their crimson prows. They have no shipwrights to build merchantmen that could give them the means of sailing across the sea and visit foreign towns and people. And as other nations do, such craftsmen would have turned the island to a fine colony for sure. Irindor. That sounds very dwarven. Irindir. Well, I guess that could work actually. I read that wrong. Irindir. Maybe that could work. But yeah, so there's an interesting thing here. The Cyclops are kind of described here as not civilized. You know, they're lawless people. They don't farm at all. They just forage and harvest from the natural ground. They have no lawmaking, and no one cares about the laws or what their neighbors are doing. They don't have any ships. They can't travel anywhere. They don't interact with anyone. They don't trade in anything. They don't do any of that. Any of these hallmarks of civilization are not there for the Cyclope. They are, by most standards, savages. But it says here, it is by no means a poor country, but capable of yielding crop in due season. So they don't need to be this. That's the interesting thing. This is an interesting dichotomy, though, because Polyphemus is shown to be an extremely intricate shepherd. You know, he's very what's the term I would use? Not intricate. He's very diligent in how he takes care of his sheep and how he milks them all the time. And he was always preparing for new cheeses and such. Cheese making is a sign of civilization. Shepherding and looking after animals is a sign of civilization. He could have just been hunting, but no, he shepherds all these sheep. He drinks their milk. He makes cheese from their milk as well. It's an interesting thing here where there are elements of civilization to them. There's almost like this potential for great civilization. Again, the land is very lush and fruitful, and again, it says that the land could have been made to a fine colony if people who could travel there had gone there, if they had craftsmen to make ships and such. But yeah, the Cyclopia are an interesting thing, Polyphemus especially, and he's got this. He's incredibly tender towards his sheep as well. This is a horrifying creature, by the way. He just eats them for no reason. Well, we're gonna, which is another thing. So, yeah, let's talk about Polyphemus and how do we put this? His lack of respect for the gods, right? He says here that well, actually, before that, there is one other thing I want to talk about. Yes, so there's one other thing I want to talk about here. Before that. And that's about the wine. Now, I want to talk about this in the Epic the Musical. It does a very good job of saying what it does in the Epic. When the Polyphemus passes out from drinking the wine, Odysseus says, "Oh yeah, I spiked it with lotus flower." I'm like, "Oh, that's really interesting." I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting way of doing it," because in the original, it talks about how he was given this wine as a gift from saving this priest, and it's interesting here. To drink this red and honeyed vintage, he would pour 1 cupful of wine into 20 of water. Now, because of the way wine was made in Greece at the time, throughout the Greek regions, right? It was very different from how you'd make wine nowadays. It was extremely strong, extremely potent, and you would need to water it down. And we talked about this a bit before as well, but generally it would be in about, normally for most common drinking wine, in a 1-to-3 ratio. This is saying it's 1-to-20. This is actual poison. Like, I don't know, Greek equivalent of squash? Yeah, except with high alcohol content, yeah. God, I love squash. But yeah, no, you would need to water it down. This is insanely alcoholic to a dangerous degree. You need to water it down, otherwise you will pass out and potentially die of alcohol poisoning. And Polyphemus, when they finally give it to him, Polyphemus drinks 3 whole bowls, because they would have drank it in bowls as well, right? So in these big serving bowls. He drank 3 of these, and I don't know, this must have been like pints of the stuff at this point. And he's just downing it. And even with his giant stature, he can't take that much alcohol. He's basically just downed, like... What's the alcohol percentage of a vodka? Because whatever that is, it's probably more than that. I'm going Van Helsing vibes with elf who uses dark magic and light magic. Sick. That actually sounds so edgy, but I'm kind of into it. Like 40%. Okay, this is probably like 40 or 50% alcohol. However much you would need to dilute something to make it drinkable at all. That's what this is. Again, it's 1 to 20 parts water. 1 part's alcohol to 20 parts water normally, and he's just like drinking it raw, drinking it straight. You know, I know a lot of people who are, oh man, you're drinking rum, you need to like dilute it with rum, with a Coke or something, because it makes it last longer, and also it's not as strong that way. But yeah, you still do it that interesting. Hang on, do you do it with wine though, or do you do it with other things? Because it's common to like, just like Greeks, it's pretty much the same drink anyway. Yeah, I can see that. It's obviously it's still common now to mix drink. Obviously, to mix things. Part of it is a way to dilute things. Again, rum and Coke, or something like Jack Daniels and Coke as well. These are all common things people mix together, partly to make it last longer, partly to dilute it a bit. But yeah, this guy, oh boy. Normally it's not 20 parts water, I guess. Okay, but yeah, that's the point of this I wanted to bring up was that I think Epic did a really elegant job of doing it. We're saying, oh yeah, in like 2 lines, he's able to say, yeah, I spiked his drink, I spiked his wine with lotus flower, which is a far more eloquent way of doing it than having to go on mid-song a short diatribe about the origins of Greek winemaking. which, whilst I'm sure some people would have found fascinating, would not have made for a great musical number. Maybe it would have done, I don't know. Maybe they just stop everything and they talk about wine and they have a wine song and it's all about hey, this is the wine and you shouldn't drink this, and that's the song. And I don't know. Would you listen to a song about Greek winemaking? Besides the point, have you ever had Ozu? It might take you out, just like Polly's wine. I've never heard of it. Granted, I also don't drink, so I'm not super familiar with a lot of alcohols, unfortunately, Pickle. Again, I said before, it's very, very rare that I do drink. There's only very few alcoholic beverages I like. I like Bailey's, which is just like Irish cream liqueur, which is nice. And I guess I can drink cider, but I don't drink it that much. But cider's also just like alcoholic juice. It's like fizzy juice, right? Fizzy alcoholic juice a lot of the time. Obviously you can get stronger stuff which tastes alcoholic, but yeah, it also depends on the flavor you're having. But yeah, generally I don't drink, so unfortunately a lot of the delicacies of wine tasting are lost on me because I don't really like alcohol that much in the first place. I'll use it in cooking. Yeah, even then it's like some people will buy huge bottles of wine for cooking, and I'm like, just buy a small one. You don't need much. It's Greece's national drink. It tastes like anise. Oh, and licorice. I do like star anise, actually. I think anise is a very nice flavor. I don't know what licorice would be like in a drink. I mean, I'd always give it. I'm always willing to give it a shot, obviously, unless it's like, as long as it's like a controlled amount, I guess. I'm not super big on like licorice flavors, if I'm being honest, but maybe I'd like it. Who knows? Maybe I'd be rather fond of it if I gave it a shot. Oh, so what is it called? Ozu. 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 You're saying he's a support character, Thorn. Interesting. Raki or Ozu. Yeah, I don't know either names, unfortunately. But still, thank you for letting me know. It's good to know. I like learning about like lesser known. I guess like I say lesser known. I'm sure for people there they're popular, but like drinks which are maybe not as internationally known. I think I mentioned the other day about like who actually did I? I don't know. In the Philippines, for years they've had like this like coconut alcohol drink from which has been made for hundreds of years from like fermented coconut water and coconut milk and stuff. And like, oh, that's an interesting way of doing it. I was watching a video actually about Adam Ragusa the other day, all about how there's alcohol in basically everything which has some kind of fermentation process, including bread. Though realistically, it's physically impossible for you to get drunk from bread. You'd get full up before you could have enough bread to get drunk. And not to mention the ethanol content in it is extremely low. It's like 3%. It's like 3% ethanol in bread. Probably less than that. I think it's 0.3% actually. Now that I think about it, it's an extremely low amount. But yeah, there's ethanol in bread, but you can't get drunk from it. Anyway, yes. So that was a little diatribe about Greek winemaking. Can I tell you, I have been wanting to talk about this all this time. I've been waiting to get to this book so we can talk about Greek winemaking, because I always want to, like, oh, they changed that in Epic. Oh, that's interesting. And I've just been very excited to talk about the 1 to 20 parts wine which they feed Polyphemus. Guys, am I cooked? Am I cooked about this? That's like the lamest thing in the world, right? I'm excited to talk about the intricacies. I'm sorry for some people. Okay. Pickle, you're meant to be on my side. You're like, no, Elijah. You're fine. Don't worry about it. It's fascinating. It's exciting for us too. Most excellent. That you see, you've earned my trust again. Just keep your eyes open. It is. We're just cooked. Okay, well. Fair. What else? What else we got here? Polyphemus. He's a big guy. He can move a big stone slab. Yes, so let's talk about... These guys aren't very pious. They don't respect the gods. This is likely some kind of... So we're talking about hubris here. They care nothing for Zeus with his aegis, nor the rest of the blessed gods, since we are much stronger than they are. This is obviously not true. They have no divine magical powers like they have. They are sons of Poseidon even. They don't even, by this logic, they do not even respect their own father. And yet, when things don't go his way, he's more than willing to call upon him to assist them. He'll talk shit about his dad all he wants until he needs daddy's money. So yeah. But and this kind of hubris comes back to bite him. Again, this is all a moral lesson here. Don't think you're above the gods. No one is. And even Odysseus reminds him, good sir, remember your duty to the gods. We are your suppliants, and Zeus is the champion of suppliants and guests. He's even warning him here. Because Zeus is guarding them, essentially. That's his Zeus will protect them. Or really, Zeus will punish him for it. That's his idea. Obviously, unfortunately, several of the crewmates die. In a very violent description, he sees the couple dash their heads against the floor as though they had been puppies. Their brains ran out on the ground and soaked the earth. Limb by limb, he tore them to pieces to make his meal, which he devoured like a mountain lion, leaving nothing, neither entrails nor flesh, marrow nor bones. While we, weeping, lifted up our hands to Zeus in horror at the ghastly sight, we felt completely helpless. What a visceral description. That's visceral. Visceral description there. Yeah. I mean, it's already savage enough that they're just eating humans alive, and then there's nothing left behind. So, when making animal sacrifices to gods, you generally offer the entrails to the gods, and you would eat the rest of the meat. It's always some entrails can be cooked and such, but things like the stomach and other entrails would be offered to the gods generally. Here there's none of that even. He's just devouring every single bit of bone and bones as well be offered. So yeah, a rather visceral image showing the utter savagery of it, which again it's even more interesting contrast where there's this man, this giant, this monster with no sense of civilization, seemingly, who's willing to just randomly eat people and does not have any religion in his life, despite being the child of a god. Does not fear them at all. Though I guess maybe it's because he is a child of a god. He thinks he doesn't need to fear them. But regardless, it's interesting thing where how should I put this? It's an interesting thing where there's still this like element of civilization to him in the way he treats his sheep. It's odd. I'm not sure exactly what Homer is trying to say with this, or if there even is anything to say. Maybe it's just some characterization for Polyphemus, right? Like, he's this horrifying monster, but he also just really likes his sheep and his rams and farming and cheese making and such, tending, like shepherding and cheese making and such. But yeah. And Odysseus in the very beginning, he's untrustworthy. This guy's already giving lies. We got wrecked on here by Poseidon on the borders of your land. He gives him that. He tells him that instead of saying, "Oh, we went here to explore." Yeah, they have to hold back killing him because they realize, oh crap, if we kill him now, we'll never be able to get out of the cave. They will be locked here forever because he's put a massive boulder in front of the door, or the cave entrance even. Again, a lot of stuff here all about kind of like the lack of civilization. He has this big olive wood stick, this club cane thing, this olive wood staff, which they're saying could easily be like the mast of a ship, but they just don't have the civilization where they don't have the craftsmen to do that, to make a ship. Yes, but your savagery is more than we can bear. Hard-hearted man, how can you expect to ever have a visitor again from the world of men? You've not behaved rightly. I find this rather amusing because, listen, he's already eaten like 2 of your guys, or maybe 4 of you guys at this point. I don't know. But like, I don't think you saying you'll never get another guest again. We're never coming back here. We're gonna leave you a poor review. I'm sure that will teach him a lesson. I'm sure that'll get him. But yeah. Maybe we'll get it. Maybe it'll hurt his feelings. It doesn't, but And here's this lovely, this deliciously evil line, I would say, where he gives him. Oh, actually, hang on. We'll talk about that. Talk about this in a moment. Yeah, here's this deliciously evil line where he says, "My gift. I will give you a gift if you give me more wine." He says, "My gift to you, is that of all his company, I will eat you last, and the rest before him. That shall be your gift." Deliciously evil. But of course, we talk now about the big trick. Probably one of the most famous tricks Odysseus pulls. The name change, where he calls himself Nobody. He does not give his name, he calls himself Nobody. Now, there's an interesting wordplay here in the original Greek, which unfortunately does not translate well in English. But we got a little. We've got some notes about it here anyway, so let's just read that for you. So in the Greek, they use the term metis. Metis, meaning no one. Metis is no one. And obviously, if you run that together, you get the word metis, meaning, resourceful, cunning, wise, all these kind of things which describe Odysseus. Metis is a term he's often associated with throughout writings, throughout history, and throughout the story itself. Metis, this cunning, this intelligence, this wisdom, this wiliness. But yes, and there's a bit of a pun here, obviously, where I guess he's used metis and called himself Metis. But yeah, I just think that's a very interesting play on words. There's nothing much for it, but obviously it's a very famous part. Leading to this amazing finale to where he says, "Nobody has blinded me." Like, Oh, my friend, it's nobody's treachery, not violence that is doing me to death. Well then, came the immediate reply, if you are alone and nobody's assaulting you, you must be sick, and sickness comes from Almighty Zeus and cannot be helped. All you can do is pray to your father, the Lord Poseidon. Now, there's an interesting thing here where it seems obvious there that the rest of the Cyclopes are nowhere near as ignorant of the god's power as Polyphemus here is. Polyphemus is a rather ignorant fool in this regard, and Odysseus calls him out as such. Instant red flag there, though. Your father, the Lord Poseidon. Oh my, this is going to be a terrible twist of fate, isn't it? But also, again, lovely violent imagery here. With a drill, they twirl with its red hot point and twist it into his eyeball until the blood boiled up round the burning wood. Very nice. Blood boiled up. Lovely plosives there. And yeah, it describes it as like making it sound like it hissing when a smith plunges into a cold water, to quench and strengthen the iron. Plunges an axe in to strengthen it. So like psst, that kind of sound is coming from this burning staff, which has been speared into Polyphemus' eye. Horrifyingly violent imagery, but I think it wonderfully described there. And of course, we see Odysseus' hubris in full swing here, where his men. We don't even get the name for this, by the way. So one thing you'll notice in the Odyssey, very few of his men get named. Very few of them have speaking dialogue lines as well. But here we have this entire paragraph from them, essentially, saying, why do you want to provoke the savage in this obstinate way? And they're trying to just beg him not to because the rock almost just killed him, which he's throwing at them. And, of course, here we have the fatal flaw of Odysseus. He is a prideful man. And when he is one up to you with his schemes, he cannot help but rub it in your face. And this, obviously, will come back to bite him. It's already come back to bite him, as Polyphemus has now put a curse on him. He has cursed his name under Lord Poseidon. And we all know how this is going to turn out in the long run. Because, I mean, we already do, because he's already been stuck at sea for, 20 years now? Really, just not going well for him. But again, it's this kind of thing where, well, he deserved it. He could either kill the Cyclops completely, or he could have just ran and left it, but instead he decided to say his name out, because I need you to know that I, Odysseus, son of Laertes, Odysseus of Ithaca, am the one who beat you, you cunt. But, yeah. And but Zeus took no notice of my sacrifice. His mind must have already been full of plans for the destruction of all my fine ships and of my loyal band. I find this very interesting because it contrasts directly with what was said at the beginning of the book, or the poem even, where Zeus talks about how, he's always been a favorite of mine. He's always been very generous in his offerings. Let's just read his exact line actually. Just a moment. Where's the line? Like, nonsense, my child. How could I ever forget the admirable Odysseus? He is not only the wisest man alive, but has been the most generous in his offerings to the immortals who live in the wide heaven. It is Poseidon, the sustainer of the earth, who is still implacable towards him. Yes, so, on account of the Cyclops, he's saying there, but, obviously, Odysseus is talking about this from a first-person perspective, so he obviously didn't realize the danger is in yet there, but it seems as though Zeus has never really had it out for him that much. Obviously, he's done his due as like an upholder of laws and such, but no, he's not done anything too bad. Anyway, I think that's everything here for that book, which I wanted to talk about. Do you want to move on to the book 10 to Circe, or do you want to leave it for next week? What do people think? We could do another book if you want. It's just that it's getting quite late now where I am, so... I don't know if you watch Blood of Zeus. I was watching it today and they use the same nobody trick. I've never heard of the show Blood of Zeus. It is unknown to me. You might as well just call the show Nobody, because I don't know it. Eventually, I spent longer talking on that book than I wanted to do, but that's okay. I think, obviously, this is like the meat and potatoes which everyone really likes to talk about, and understandably so. These are really exciting stories, so... Yeah, but we can do book 10 Cersei now, or we can do it for next week. What do people think? Because then you might be tired. We can leave it for next week. Yeah. Because the thing as well, hang on. It's not that long, Cersei, but then we can also do the Book of the Dead as well, I should think. Yeah. Okay, yeah. You know what? Let's leave it there for today, folks. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you very much enjoyed today. I want more Elijah stream to listen to. I've already been yapping for so long, though, Thorn. Why? I need to go to work tomorrow. We can't please everyone. Yeah, you know what? I will I recently came. I thought you said I recently came, and I'm like, okay, I'm happy for you, but I really didn't want to know that. But I recently came. Like, that's flattering, Thorn. I had guests over. Oh. Well, I mean, you know, as long as you're all doing it consensually, that's fine. You know, who am I to judge you? Oh, we have fun here. Anyway. No, I didn't mean it like that. Oh, I know. I just wanted to mess with you. We'll leave it there for today, folks. Yes? No? Yeah, it's like 9:30 here now, and I've not had any food yet. Let's leave it there for today. Come next week, we shall be doing Book 10, Cersei, and we'll try and get through Book 11, where we'll meet Tiresias the Prophet. And again, I can talk about Tiresias, which is something I've been wanting to do for a bit now, because he's a wacky guy, Tiresias. He has some very interesting stories, to say the least. So yeah, I'm looking forward to talk about Tiresias. I'm also having a new video. Hopefully it should be finished by next week. I was going to have it out by before the stream today, but I was delayed because it was harder to do than I thought. But it's okay. We'll get it all sorted out. No need to worry. But yeah, I had that video either, I think over the weekend, I should think, hopefully, maybe. Yes, no, hopefully. I have a splendid night. Eat well. Thank you, Pickle. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Pickle. Thank you very much, Thorn. Thank you very much, Commodore. Thank you everyone. Thank you very much, everyone else. Oh, Pickle, thank you again for the very generous subscriptions. Very, very kind of you. Thank you so much. If anyone got a subscription, I don't know if anyone did, but if anyone got one, please do thank Pickle for them. Yeah. I am going to leave it there for today. We'll yeah, we'll be back on, I believe, Monday? Either Monday or Wednesday. Next Friday will be the reading stream, though. So I think Monday will be either it'll be Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky. Maybe we'll play something new as well. I'm feeling maybe we should play a new game. But yeah, that could be fun. Anyway, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you so much for coming by. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, afternoon, wherever you are. Keep well, stay safe, eat lots of good food, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Nada. Nada. Bye bye.